fact that you are spending time with us here tonight and getting an opportunity to get recognized for what you've done. And it doesn't go unnoticed. It's a phenomenal milestone in what we do. And the best is yet to come for you and your team as well. So congratulations to you, Chad. And then to be able to follow that up with Dr. Steve. First of which, Dr. Steve, I promise you, those 100 points came because he was asking for favors. I know that without even unmuting him. As you get down to the wire in what we do and you start getting to see the finish line, all of a sudden we get the best version of everybody. How many of you see the fourth quarter in the playoffs, how the people start to play a lot different than they did the first three quarters because they start to see the end zone or they start to see the end of the game. And I know that's with Dr. Steve, but I love what you said, being with a community of people that push you, that give you something to push for and strive for and go after. And you're real inspiration to all of us here. Never easy being first, never easy being the first of anything, especially out in the West Texas marketplace. But you're blazing a trail for many, many other people to follow. And I just want to acknowledge you for what you've done, Dr. Steve. Looking forward to seeing you on stage and your story being told. We need to get you a microphone and a big audience because you've got a great message for everybody here tonight. And then to be able to get introduced by Mr. Jeff Street. Look, Jeff, Melissa, these are two of the very best in the world at what we do. And for those of you that have been spent any time with Jeff and Melissa, let me just tell you a little bit about what I know. For the last 2 weeks, Jeff has been speaking in front of people that have nothing to do with ACN. He went into a success center this earlier last week where they asked him to come in and talk to entrepreneurs about being successful. And Jeff doesn't take things lightly. I mean, he went in there super prepared, gave an amazing message. And let me tell you how good the message was. One of the audience members said, I want to know what you do, came back 2 hours later and signed up in his business. So imagine him just going to share a vision of what it means to be a successful entrepreneur and not only inspiring people in the audience, but getting to a point where somebody says, I want to know more about what it is you do and how you've been able to have so much success. So, number one, congratulations to both him and Melissa. These guys have been selected to speak on the national stage. So out of everybody in ACN, you are working with two of the absolute best. And it's not me saying it, it's ACN Corporation saying it because they want them to train the entire company. So if we could, let's just show Jeff, Melissa, the leadership here, our appreciation for creating an environment to win. And this is so rare in life. You don't have the opportunity for people to get together, mastermind, talk about what it takes to win, hanging around other people that are out there chasing their dreams and running after what it is that they got involved for this business for. And when Jeff talked about the why, it's so funny. I can remember like yesterday, I got involved in ACN and they said, what's your why? Get out of debt, get out of debt, get out of debt, get out of debt. Can anybody else here, relate to that why? And I remember my mentor was like, Patrick, you came in on debt. Like that why's been with you your whole life. That is not going to move the needle in what we do. If you came into this business with the same why you had before this business, that's not a deep enough reason for doing what we do. He said, I want you to think about something that you would rather die before it not happen. And, that was a real internal introspection for me at the time. I never was really the good student. I really didn't have a lot of things for my parents to be proud about. I don't know if anybody can relate, 5 years to get out of a 4-year college. I wasn't really that good in school. I was, sort of the kid that rather spend more time out of school than in school. And so, I sort of looked at my parents and as a kid, you think your parents are superheroes, right? They have everything taken care of. We've always took little vacations. My mom and dad were never one of those people that said no to a lot, meaning they always just did the most that they could with what they had. It wasn't until I became an adult that I realized they didn't have anything. How many of you have ever, as you grow up and you start looking at your parents and you're realizing they're not in any financial situation to be able to enjoy their golden years? Matter of fact, their golden years are going to be work, and more work and concerned about not having enough money at the end of their life. And so as an adult son, it never occurred to me that I should be doing something about it. Does that make sense? Meaning I just thought it's tough for everybody. I'm trying to get out of debt. I'm trying to pay back student loans, pay credit cards off. And when he said that to me, what would you need? What would be a why so great that you would rather die than not see it happen? And I thought about my parents and I thought, you know what, while they're still here on earth, right? While they're around me in living, I would like to be able to do something for them. And that became my battle cry. And that became something that trumped everything else in my life. I didn't want to watch TV anymore. I didn't want to go to a sporting event anymore. I didn't want to go to happy hour. I didn't want to go hang out with my friends and go to the movies. I wanted to go regional vice president because I read an article in Success Magazine that said the average regional vice president was making $33,000 a month. And all I remembered that I don't mind being average. How many of us here? I don't even mind being below average as I read that article. And so I wrote that down as a goal, go regional vice president. And that was something that really allowed for me to make easy decisions when it came to life. And what do I mean by that? When you have somewhere to go, you're not interested in distractions. How many of us would agree with that? If you're training for the Olympics, you're not going out to eat ice cream. You're not going out to lay on the beach for the next 2 weeks. Why? You are intensively training and doing something most people are never going to be able to do. And so when I came into this business and I really got present with why I was doing it, it was easy for me to make decisions on what to do on a daily basis because I had my why that was driving me in those decisions. Does that make sense? When somebody said, hey, are you going to go to family reunion or you go into a national convention? I'm going to a national convention. Why? Because my parents are more important than me hanging out talking about yesterday with people that I know. That I was building a future for my parents and building a future for myself. And what I didn't realize is that how much personal development I had to go through. I was an absolute mess when I got involved in ACN, meaning I didn't understand integrity and doing what you say long after the feeling you said it in has left you, doing the things that successful people do by nature. Does that make sense? Meaning I had to go through a metamorphosis of all the things that it's required for you to have the level of success that I truly wanted to have. And I share that with you because no matter where you are in this journey, whether you're a brand new CQ like Patrick, and man, I know you got a big why. I was really affected by what you said, or you're a veteran like, Mr. Ken Potter, regional vice president, or you're somebody somewhere in between, understand that there's decisions that you're going to make along the way. And those decisions are going to affect where you're going to be over the next 3 to 5 years. Now, here's my experience. Number one, our greatest years were 2008 and 2009. And I can remember like yesterday, I was putting 100 reps in every single 30 days. We were, clicking along. Things were great, made some big decisions. And let me tell you what happened. The bottom dropped out of the market. And it happened in literally a handful of weeks. It wasn't like this long, drawn out problem in the economy. It was like things are great one week, the next week Bear Stearns went bankrupt. And all of a sudden, things started to fall apart around the country. And we went from putting literally 100 people in a month to putting 1,000 people in a month. My income exploded based on one thing, the economy. Now, here's what I'm sharing with you. Some of you are going to catch something tonight that's going to allow for you to ride a wave that probably you won't see again in your lifetime. And that's a challenge out there in the marketplace that all of us are experiencing, yes or no. Like, I'm not talking about getting rich to people. I'm talking about staying ahead of inflation. I'm talking about paying for groceries right now. Yes or no? Most Americans are struggling when they take a look at their car insurance and their home insurance. How many of you here had a little increase in some of those bills, right? How many of you had those bills double up on you like they did for me? And so when you think about the average person today, they're going to be more open to hearing about an opportunity based on the economy that we're inheriting. Now, let's talk about building something significant. And when you take a look at our opportunity, understand we're going to have to go build it, right? No matter what it is that you and I choose to do, you got to build and you got to develop and you've got to grow. And what's so beautiful about our business model is not just the money that you'll make and all the success that comes along with it. It's the person that you become along the way to being successful. And, some people come in ACN for a season. Some people come in for a lifetime. And some people don't come in at all. And I think a lot of times when people sign up in ACN, unfortunately, they have to meet somebody and it's themselves. And sometimes they don't like to meet the person they are. How many of you know what I'm talking about? And so if I can give you a little bit of advice here this evening, Number one, how do you build into what I believe going to be the greatest event this company's ever put on? And that's going to be Cleveland, Ohio. And so if I can give you 23 years of experience, here's the first thing I'll share with you. Had a gentleman just get involved, Josh Feltz. And Josh is a pretty successful guy, owns a couple businesses, made a couple $1 million in some other businesses over the year. And so when he came into the business over the last 3 weeks, he said, look, what would you do if you had to start over today? And I gave him just some really basic information. I said, number one, I'd make a decision. Like, if you're going to do this, there's only one way to do it. You've got to position yourself for regional vice president. You've got to have 4 legs of business. You've got to have 750 points in 4 different legs. And we want to do something that can allow for you to hit that position very quickly. You got to put together a big Zoom meeting. Now, him, just like all of us on here tonight, we've got hundreds of names in our cell phone, yes or no? Every single one of us have lots and lots of people. Don't need to go talk to strangers on the street. We have enough people in our cell phone right now to keep us busy for the next 3 to 5 years, right? How many of us would agree if we started at A and went to Z and called every single one of them, it would take you the next 3 years to touch base with all of them, because we know some people are going to say yes, and now you're going to be busy working with them and their contacts, not just going back and working with your own. So Josh made a big list. He had over 500 plus people on his list, and he made some phone calls. First Zoom meeting put about 43 people in front of the opportunity. Second Zoom meeting had over 30 people. He put 15 different people in the business in the last 2 weeks. Now, those 15 people, the only thing we spoke about to those 15 people is, if you sign up, the only thing we need you to do is go to Cleveland. Does that make sense? Why? Because I know if they go to Cleveland, they're going to get what I can't give them, and that's belief in what we're doing. How many of us agree we operate to the level of our belief? That's where we operate to. And you can't transfer belief into somebody else. That's going to be something they have to get on their own. Now, remember, this guy came in totally coachable, understands what it takes to make money in business. So he went through a lot of personal development. Anybody that's made that kind of money in life, can we agree, they've already read some books and went to events and understand the necessity of working on you. Second thing is, when I talked to him about who to go after, I talked about business owners. How many of you love the fact that we've got a suite of services right now that is literally going to check every box for a business owner? Hey, you need healthcare, great, we've got it. You need payroll, great, we've got it. You need credit card processing, great, we've got it. You need high-speed internet for your business, we got it. You need commercial phone service, we got it. So we've got an entire buffet for anybody that's a business owner here in the United States. So can we agree that's naturally going to give you a target market to go after and talk to, right? These are people that understand all these different services that we're offering. Third thing I've talked about is having people make a decision. See, a lot of times when we share the information, we don't ask people, hey, are you ready to get started? Like, is this something that you want to do? Sometimes we talk more and listen less. How many of you know what I'm talking about, right? Sometimes we keep talking instead of saying, hey, what do you think? Is it something you want to do? Are you ready to get started? Let's get you signed up and let's get you moving. So I share all that with you to let you know the reason that I'm sharing the timing that we're in is that every single one of us here tonight can put a big Zoom meeting together next week, yes or no? All right, there's not one of us on here that can't do it. Every single one of the 60 plus people that are on here tonight can put a big Zoom meeting together. Now, let me explain what that can mean for you. Number one, you're going to have to go through the people anyway, yes or no? Let's say you call somebody July 1 and they take a look at ACN. Our next national convention will probably be October. So can we agree that's a long time away for them to go to a national convention? Right? Randy Darnell came to our last national convention as a guest in Dallas, Texas. He wasn't even in the business. Took a look at ACN. The gentleman that brought him to the presentation said, hey, look, if you're going to do it, come to our national convention. He drove 5.5 hours from San Antonio Marketplace. He came to Dallas. He sat in the audience. He left, and he went regional director in 44 days. He has 1,200 customers since our last convention. He has 28 people registered for this upcoming national convention. He went to the last one as a guest. Did everybody hear that part? Now, the reason I share that with you is that if you get in front of people next week, how many of us agree they have time to make the decision to go to the convention? If you get in front of them July 1st, you're telling them, hey, wait till October. If you think this is exciting now, in October, we're going to have a big national convention. Does everybody see how much difficult it is to get somebody excited in July and expect them to stay excited till October? Do they really learn what it is they need to do? So if you think about how we can position people tonight, and I know I'm not talking to everybody, but for the ones that I am talking to, and I'm talking the big why people here tonight. I'm talking about the retire your parents people here tonight. I'm talking about putting a spouse at home and letting them raise the kids conversation here tonight. If that's you that are listening to what I'm saying, here's what you need to do for that to happen. Number one, make that decision tonight. Don't wait till tomorrow to make that decision. You know, I tell people at every Zoom meeting I do, show me, I go, I can't tell if you're a leader. I wish they had leader written on their forehead. How many of us think life would be a lot easier if we walked around and said, that's a leader, Ken's a leader, Katie's a leader, Missy Potter's a leader, right? How many of us would agree? It'd have been a lot easier if we could have just, hey, I can see in your forehead, you're a leader. Great, come on in here. Let's get something going together and let's build something big. But we can't do that. So I asked people at a training, I said, look, if you're a leader, like if you consider yourself to be a leader, just let me know so I'll know how to coach you. Is everybody clear on that? Because can we agree there's a different level of coaching for people that see themselves as a leader than people that don't see themselves as a leader? Look, I didn't see myself as a leader when I started. So I have sympathy for people that go, I don't think I'm a leader. Great, neither was I. So don't worry, you will evolve into a leader if you hang out with leaders. Can we agree with that statement? If you hang out with leaders, you will become a leader. So if you take a look at our compensation plan, how's the best way for somebody to position himself to go regional vice president? You need 4 legs of business. Now, if I have 4 legs of business, and let's say I have Dr. Steve in one leg, Laura McQueen in one leg, or how many of us would agree you could see 750 points are going to happen based on them coming to a convention? If I have Missy Potter in one leg, or if I have Paul in another leg, does everybody see those 4 leaders together? Once they hit 750 points each, now you're graduating to regional vice president. Now you're in a position to get paid on every single customer, no matter where they are in your entire team. And I share that with you because I don't care if you're a CQ on here tonight or an ETL on here tonight. How many of us agree regional coordinators on the way to regional vice president? Regional directors on the way to regional vice president. So now you're in a situation where you're going, that's the ultimate goal. That's where now you're in a position where you're making money on every customer. There's not one customer you and I aren't getting paid on, but we got to hold it in our head before we hold it in our hand. So you've got to start with the end in mind. Second of which, if your goals aren't big, right? Goals have to be impossible for God to get involved. Everybody clear on that one? If it's a possible goal, God don't need to be involved in that. You can handle that on your own. Yes or no? Sure, you can go out and get 20 customer points. You don't need God's involvement to get 20 customer points. You do need God's involvement if you agree, if you're going to go put 3,000 customer points in the next handful of months. So the reason I share that with you is because we've got something so special with the International Convention that we can't replicate on our own. We cannot do that on our own. If we could do it without the event, I wouldn't tell people to fly to Cleveland. I wouldn't tell people to drive across the state. I wouldn't tell people to sell something on Marketplace, right? Go to your closet, sell 3 or 4 things on Marketplace, get your money together, and let's go to Cleveland to make this work. Now, look, we've all seen people spend money on things that never made them any money, yes or no? How many of you know people, you could look at their Visa, look at their MasterCard, look at their American Express, and probably 90% of the things they're buying will never make them any money. This is about giving them a chance to win. If they don't have the belief, can we agree the first time somebody says boo, the first time somebody says it doesn't work, the first time somebody says you're wasting your time, they're not going to be sticking around long. But once they know that they know, right? Once I got to the national convention and I sat with Phil Chrysler and he sat there and told me what impact was, I didn't care what anyone said. I talked to people who've been in insurance for 30 years. It was like, I don't care what you say. This guy's telling me one thing that I'm 100% in alignment with. And the reason I share that with you is because you have to have that kind of belief and confidence to attract great people to you. Because don't we want great people on our team? Well, you've got to have a lot of confidence and a lot of belief in what you're doing to attract those type of individuals in your organization. Now, having said that, here's what I'm excited about. One, how many of you realize there's still time to get people to the convention? There's still time. Number two, I am thankful that I went to the convention because I would not be in this business if it wasn't for the convention. Meaning I walked away from $300 before. How about you? Right? I walked away from, I have $300 pieces of equipment in my garage I've never used. How about you? Ladies, you probably have some dresses that collectively are $300 or maybe individually that you haven't worn yet. So I share that with you because it's not a lot of money in the scope of business or in the scope of life. But what we need from people is we need them to get a belief system. Now, there's a couple ways to get somebody to the convention. Number one, you got to tell your story. Hey guys, well, listen, just to let you know, I'm not fooling around with this. I'm all in on this one. I'm going 100% in on this. And because I'm going 100%, I'm going to the national convention. Now, if somebody said that to me, would we agree that you're going to influence me, right? What is your influence worth if you're not using it? What is it worth if you're not using it? What is it worth if you're not letting people know, hey, I'm all in on this one? Number two, I tell other people's story. How many of you heard the Randy Darnell story just come out of my mouth? How many of you heard the story of somebody else that went and he was a guest and today he's got 1,200 customers on his team because he went to the national convention? And the third thing I do is I get other people involved. What do I mean by that? Is let's say I call somebody and talk about the national and they say things like, well, listen, I don't know and I'm not sure. And I said, hey, I get it. I got Paul Mercier here on the other line. He's a regional director. He's somebody that I have so much respect for. Paul, I've got Mary here on the line. Can you tell Mary a little bit about what the national convention can do? Does everybody see the third party? I'm utilizing other people's stories to get more people to my convention because I'm going through and I'm getting 4 legs of business. And if I get 4 legs of business to the convention, there's a great chance that they will go back and go to work. Now, if I don't get them there, there's a great chance they're not going to go to work. Why? Because distractions are everywhere. How many of us agree life is a distraction? How many of us here would agree that most people spend their time doing low value things that'll never take care of their family financially? Low value things. Like once I understood what I'm sharing with you here today, I became very tunnel vision about what we're doing because you don't have to do it for life. This isn't a lifetime sentence. Yeah, if you want to keep doing it, I love it. I love helping people. I love positivity. I love personal development. And I've made money in ACN that I went out and invested in other businesses. And you know what? It made me fall back in love with ACN. Why? Because all the other businesses were headaches and problems and people quitting and managers quitting and all kinds of crazy stuff that's happening. ACN's great because the money just keeps coming. So when I had to go out and start other businesses to fall back in love with this business. How many of you know people go, well, America's not that great. And then they move to Somalia. Then they go, man, America's unbelievable. Well, that's what I felt like opening other businesses. Like, oh my God, is this what people go through? Oh my Lord, that's horrible. Right. And I share that with you because we've got something special in our hands. One, we've got an economy that'll give you a tailwind. We've got an economy that, let me tell you, the smarter they are, the faster they're building an ark before the rain comes. Yes or no? How many of you agree? They're the ones that are literally, Warren Buffett has more money on the sidelines than he ever had in his entire career, right? So if one of the richest people in the world have money on the sidelines, here's what that tells me. He's waiting for opportunity. Yes or no? He's waiting for the discount buying opportunity that's going to take place. Here's the second thing. You've got a group of people that are running at a high level of speed. I love what Dr. Steve said. You can benefit from what they're doing. Does that make sense? Now imagine if Dr. Steve, imagine if some of the leaders here weren't here and this was just you, meaning you had to create it all. How many of us agree that would be incredibly difficult? You had to create your Friday night leadership. You had to create a Saturday training. You had to create a culture of winning. You had to make sure everybody was taken care of. You don't have to deal with that because that's already in place right now. Your job is just to run with people that are running. And if they don't run with you, they're going to run with someone else. How many of you here realize that part? And the final piece to the puzzle, if you would, is back to what Jeff talked about earlier. Look, I would sit in bed tonight until I came up with a why that was so great, I'd write it down and make me want to cry. And let me tell you, when you achieve what it is that you write down, it will be greater than you could even imagine it is. Like it'll be even better than what you think it'll be. And I can remember when I told my parents, you don't have to work anymore. It took them 30 days just to mentally accept it. Oh, I don't want to spend your money. You're never going to spend all my money because my money's never stopping. Because if we spend all my money in June, guess what happens in July? You get more money. And guess what happens in August? You get more money. The money never stops. Once you build it, it's built. And you can sit back and collect for a lifetime, and your kids can collect when you're done collecting. But you got to build it first. So, the reason that I feel that this team is such an exceptional team because you have exceptional leaders. You have people that are truly out there making a difference and they're leading the charge. How many of you love leaders that are leading from the front instead of whipping from the back? How many of you know leaders that are great at telling you what to do, but not out there doing it themselves? Man, look, I think our world is full of people telling us what to do, but aren't out there doing it. You've got people that are telling you what to do and willing to do it alongside of you. All you've got to do is come to the table with the big reason why. Now think about what we do. All we simply do is ask people a question. Do you look at other ways of making money? And if you can ask that question enough times, people will mistake you for highly intelligent. People mistake me all the time for highly intelligent. People call me up, Patrick, what do you think about currencies? What do you think about gold? What do you think about derivatives? What do you think about? I don't know anything about those things. Let me tell you what I know. Do you look at other ways of making money? You would be shocked, right? And when people are like, what do you mean you don't know anything about derivatives? I don't get paid to know anything about derivatives. You know what I get paid to do? Hey, nice to meet you. Do you look at other ways of making money? Great, so do I. You got to meet this guy, Steve Gerard. He's unbelievable. He's an incredible business guy. He's you got to meet Steve. And then people go to me, I can do what you did. All you did is talked about Steve. Can you do what I did? I don't have to invent health share. I don't have to figure out how electricity works, two electrons next to each other that produce energy. I don't have to figure out any of that stuff. I don't even know how ADP works. I don't even know what payroll is. I've never had payroll. Right? Can we agree? I have a big business, a big bunch of payroll. Man, sounds complicated. Let me put you with the smart people and I'll get a little piece of it by just putting smart people together. So when you think about where we're sitting at today, this is the common person's business with an uncommon goal, with an uncommon belief system, with an uncommon reason for doing something. Now, look, I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy. It's not. It's not that it's physically hard. I'm sure Chad will tell you he was out in the sun in Texas. It was 100 today. So I'm sure whatever he was doing, that was probably pretty hard. Me calling somebody in an air conditioner and say, do you look at other ways of making money? It's not really difficult. But the reason I share that with you is because what's hard in what we do is realizing most people will never do it. That's what's hard. What's hard is fighting against the fact that most people spend 13 years of their life in school getting convinced that they need a job. And that's what you're fighting against. It's called social conditioning, yes or no? They've been conditioned. It takes them 13 years to get them convinced to give up their freedom. It takes that long. The only reason I never got a job is because I watched what happens to people that have one. And it was my dad. He spent 33 years with one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And you know what they do when you're about 57 years old? They bring you in and tell you we don't need you anymore. How many of you know somebody like my father? Right? Man, he gave everything to that company. He gave his time, his effort, his energy, his talents, his ability. He gave them everything. And when they were done with them, they said, thank you, right? And you can pack your box and the security guard is going to walk you out and enjoy your life. And that's how they ended it. And I saw that as a son. And you know what I said? I'm never going to let that happen to me. And I'm always going to work for myself. So I didn't do it because I wanted freedom. I did it because I didn't want to end up like that. Now, let me tell you what my parents gave me. The greatest inheritance they gave me was the ability, was the desire never to be poor. That's what I inherited. How many of you here inherited something similar than I did? Donald Trump's dad gave him $2 million. My dad gave me the desire never to be poor. So I share that with you because we've got something special, but it's going to take everything you got and a little extra. And you know what? I know somebody has a big why because they put a big Zoom together. That's how I know. They don't need to tell me their why. I can see their why. I can see the fact that they're willing to go all in. And for those of you that aren't at that space to go all in, come to the convention. It's just a belief thing. That's all it is. It's just a belief thing. You just need to spend enough time with what we do to get your belief system high enough to be willing to talk to everyone. And once you're willing to talk to everyone, then you're willing to coach people to talk to everyone. Because if you don't talk to everybody, how can you expect JD to go talk to everybody? If I didn't call everybody, how can I expect Raymond to go talk to everybody? Right? If I didn't talk to everybody, can we agree we communicate with feelings and not words? We're communicating with our feelings instead of our words. So as long as you're ready to go all in, you got a bunch of people around you that'll support you. You got to learn a couple simple scripts. You look at other ways of making money. If they don't show up, don't ask why. Here's what kills people in ACN. Why? Why didn't they do anything? Why didn't they show up? Why didn't they get a bunch of customers? Why didn't they go ETL? Why didn't they go RC? I don't ask those questions. My job is to find people that are Dr. Steves of the world, the Lauren McQueens of the world, the Missy Potters of the world that are going to go out. All I have to do is find them. That's all we have to do. So guys, I couldn't wait to get on here. Jeff and I, listen, him and I are spending some time together. Let me just show you. Here's Jeff drawing out his group, right? All the leaders, everybody that's on here, whether it's Carrie Dahl or Fred Sullivan, let me tell you, you're all on this list here. I mean, we sat there and just mapped out the team of the next wave of people that we want to dig in with and go to work. But this is like a chess match, right? We make a move and then we wait for someone else to make a move. See, I make a move. Hey, I'm going to help you. I see you make a move, then I make a move. And you make a move and I make a move. And we're looking to partner up with people that want to go all the way. So if that's you here tonight, looking forward to celebrating you in Cleveland, Ohio. And regardless if you're on that stage, here's what I would do when you're there. Imagine that you will be. And if you imagine that you will be, there's going to be a day they're going to call your name and your family's going to be standing behind you and they're going to see what you've done and the lives that you've touched. And more importantly, the example that you gave them of what's possible. So I hope this helped you here tonight. Jeff, it's an honor to work alongside of you. You're a great organization. I believe you have some of the most talented, gifted human beings that I've ever had the good fortune to get to know. And I'm looking forward to crushing this thing alongside of all of you here tonight. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jeff, and let you take the call from here.
Well, Patrick, you just crushed our call tonight, brother. Thank you so much. I've got, guys, how many just blown away by what Patrick shared here tonight? How many of you just listening to Patrick are like, right, I'm ready to take myself and my life to a whole nother level. And just thank you for always just being that constant example for each and every one of us. A finish never is. Let me tell you this, guys. Patrick's monthly residual check would knock most people over. But at the end of the day, you still see his hunger and his desire to grow, to get better, to, personally bring new incredible people into this opportunity because he's already seen what it's been like to be the #1 team in ACN for a long, long time. His goal now is for this team to be the #1 team in the history of network marketing. And how many of us are ready to help him do that? So let's give it back again one more time for Senior Vice President Patrick Mays. We were at the coffee shop today. We went in the coffee shop. I was like, oh, Patrick, here, talk to this guy real quick. I ran into a guy that I had shown the business to last week, just literally happened to be at the same place with us. Patrick and I talked to him for about 15 minutes. He text messaged me 2 hours later, send me the link to sign up. And so just love going out and having fun building this business. And Patrick, thank you so much again for everything you do.